Of all the categories of watches, field watches are perhaps the most overshadowed. Key characteristics of the category, legibility, durability, pretty far from today's trends. There's no bezels. It doesn't have water resistance. It's not a diver. The point of these is to be simple, easy to read, and tough. So does the Bertucci Dx3 get that right? Bertucci is an American-based micro brand digging out a very special niche. This case shape is kind of their bread and butter. They make a bunch of different models, but all of them boil down to these long fixed lugs that you can see here. And this case shape, very basic, no bezels, no this and that. This one is DX3. It's a very cheap offering from them. It's under $100. It's about $75, right? And as you can see, it's quartz. Just a standard one-tick quartz. But you'll notice that throughout their brands, they all look just like this one. There's titanium. There's automatic movements. There's this and that. You can recognize a Bertucci in a room, no matter what model it is. Does this have to do with the pizza restaurant? No. Cutting right to the chase, this watch does come in under $100. It's about $75. Currently, it goes up and down, but this model exactly with the quartz movement and the stone dial on the black case is $75. So obviously, building a watch under $100 is a feat of its own, right? So, at some point, you got to give them credit for trying, especially to compete with, the likes of Casio and the likes of, AliExpress brands, because you don't really see micro brands building at this price range bunch. But is it the right price? Low is good, but only if it can deliver on things. And only if it's up to par with things in its price range. So unfortunately, this watch actually has the same specifications practically as some Timex pieces that are around $40. Specifically, the Timex Expedition Scout 40. Very similar watch, obviously different look, but it's a field watch, it's quartz, it's under, $100. Actually, that one's under $50, even better. One of the unique things that sets this watch apart is the case design. As you can tell, it has these really long, downward-facing lugs. Also, as you can tell from the one-piece strap, they are fixed lugs, which is very interesting. Polyresin, while it isn't pretty, is extremely durable. So as a field watch, can't really complain. This watch is supposed to be tough, and polyresin is definitely not going to be a point of failure, especially with these fixed lugs. The point of the fixed lugs being, break one, the watch won't fall off your wrist. It'll actually still be, held on like this if this one were to break. What's less interesting, though, is the mineral crystal. Mineral crystal, kind of a expected feature at this price range, but really for a field watch, it's kind of hard to justify mineral crystal on a watch that's supposed to be used and abused. This will crack. No way around it. This is not going to be durable, and there's really nothing else to say. Also not great is the water resistance. You can see it listed right here, 50 meters of water resistance. Also, really not what you're looking for a field watch. You can justify it when the price is really low. The price here is really low, but like I said, it's double the price of its competitors, and its specs are the same. That Timex mentioned earlier also has 50 meters, also has mineral crystal, and if anything, it's from a more respected manufacturer in Timex. On the back of the case, you can see all the specifications written, including 50 meter water resistance, anything you want, battery type, this and that. This is a pressed on thing. You can pry it off right there to replace the battery, so easy enough. Probably contributing to that 50 meter water resistance is that ease of popping the back off. A little dog, which is a staple of the Bertucci brand. I believe it's the owner's dog, or a little character of. Let's move on from the case to the dial. So the dial, of course, is very simple. You have your printed numerals, and of course, on the inner ring, you have 13 to 24 printed as well. It's a really classic field watch aesthetic, and you can't take away from it at all design wise, because that is what it should be. You know, a field watch should look like this. Part of the reason field watches aren't so popular is because there really isn't a lot of variance. You know, you look at Hamilton Khaki Field, which is maybe the archetype of the segment. Dial looks a lot like this. You know, maybe there's some design and finishing things, and maybe there's some applied things instead of being all printed like this one, but it looks a lot like this. Numerals around the side, all legible. And the handsets themselves, actually one of the standout features of this, I really love that second hand. Bertucci Shield logo is a counterbalance. And at the end, there's a little tiny tip, also with loom. Really looks great. It adds a little bit of flair to this watch, especially on a dial that's supposed to be plain. Adds a little bit of flair. That looks great. Having uniform design, though, you know, that's one thing with the field watch. Doesn't mean it has to be boring. This dial is pretty boring, though, isn't it? So everything is printed completely. You know, it's about as cheap as you can get. You can even see on the loom pips, there really isn't a lot of 3D there. It might be one layer. You know, it's quite boring. It is what it's supposed to do. It does nothing more. We'll get to loom in a second. So the loom here, like I said, pips on each of the dial markers, those little squares, and then also on the hands, and including second hand at the tip. That's everything you'd want, right? Sure. But of course, one of the major pitfalls of cheap watches is loom. This loom is abysmal. I'm not even going to bother showing you a loom shot. It lasts maybe 5 minutes. Isn't very bright for that 5 minutes, and then you can't see it at all. Terrible loom, though, is a bummer, because once again, this field watch is supposed to be purpose-built. It's supposed to last through hard times and good times, so, well, can't really do that, can it? Inside is Japanese quartz. No doubt, just a few dollar movement. It's a 1 hertz. Unfortunately, on this model, it doesn't even really hit the markers, which is a real shame. You know, if you're looking for a 1 hertz quartz, there's not much to look for, and one of the very few things is does it hit the markers, and it can't. So, not much to say, not great. Bertucci claims a 4-year battery life, which is slightly above the norm of 3 years, which you see on most Casios and Timexes, but once again, I'm not going to test that. It's about on par with average. One of the standout features of this watch that you probably won't expect is actually the strap. The strap here is incredibly high quality, especially for a field watch. I'm beating a dead horse here, but you really need reliable and, you know, purpose-built things that are built to last and tough. And this is just that. You can see just how thick that strap is. The stitching is done beautifully. I saw no cosmetic errors at all. It really is fantastic. I've been using it for a while now, and you can see there's no fraying or anything in the strap. Even the buckles are branded. I'll put a B-roll in here. It's probably hard to see, but it says Bertucci across all these, which is branded, which is actually pretty surprising. You expect to be using a off-the-shelf piece of nylon or something, but it really is quite good, quite comfortable, and fits your wrist quite well, obviously, being a one-piece NATO. Here it is on wrist. As you can see, lugs hang over quite far in a way that I really don't love. This is a 7-inch wrist I have, and you know, it really looks quite large, and this is a 40mm watch. It shouldn't really look that large on my wrist. It fits quite large in a way that I don't really love, especially that one-piece NATO. It even accentuates it hanging over. Not my favorite look, you know, a little too big. Of course, there's smaller options. Field watches aren't exactly known for their versatility. Don't wear this with a suit. You know, you can wear it with shorts, you can wear it with a t-shirt. But it kind of ends there, especially with the 50 meters water resistance. You know, usually casual watches, sports watches, you can wear out and about, get a little wet, who cares? Not with this. 50 meters is not enough for that. It's really not very versatile. You can wear it when you're out and about roughing it, but even then, the mineral crystal and the water resistance, it makes it hard to even recommend doing that, you know. So, not exactly the most versatile watch. Another shining point of this is the originality. Now, I do keep that into account when I make a score for a watch, and I know I've said a lot of maybe negative things about this watch, but one of the things you cannot fault it for is how original it is. Even from that crown, like being at that position, looks great. Big crown guards here. really long lugs. Really looks interesting, especially with those fixed lugs. It's really hard to mistake this for a different watch. It really is hard because it looks unique, and especially when it starts coming in different colorways. And it comes in a lot of colorways. You know, you can get it in titanium, you can get it in stainless steel, you can get it in this poly resin, you can get it in different sizes. I think there's a 30, a 36, a 40, and a 42 of this exact case shape. It really is quite great. Like I said, Bertucci basically just sells this case shape. And I believe there's even a 45 with a couple models out there. And on top of that, they have every color you can imagine, from glow in the dark to neon red to white to black to whatever you want. So it really gets a lot of points for originality. There's a bunch of different colorways. They're all recognizable. And you're not going to mistake this for any other brand. So here you're going to see the specs. And yeah, it's about what you expect. The lug to lug is quite long. We'll get to that in a minute, but beyond that, the specs aren't really great. Wears quite large, but of course there's other case sizes available, so pick your poison. The Bertucci Dx3 is a really interesting product. $75, it's really affordable, and it's hard to fault it. It's got a lot of praise on the internet, but to be honest, I'm not sure why. You know, I think the real point of this watch is to look rugged and purpose-built without being rugged and purpose-built. Maybe that's, you know, price dependent. It's only $75 from a micro brand, but I mean, as a consumer, you know, pay 20 bucks more, you get $95. You can pick up a Boderi, which is a Chinese brand that has a very similar case shape to this. This is probably the original inspiration, but you know, it's automatic, it's steel, and it's just made much better. You know, so it's hard to recommend this when for a little bit more money you get the same design, much better specs, and then for much less money you get, you know, things like the Timex Weekender or the Timex Field that are just as good as a watch, especially as a field watch, with the same specs. So that's my review. Here's the watch score, and check out this video. Thanks for checking in.